I shouldn't have gone to that cabin. Even now, remembering it makes my hands tremble, my breath tighten in my chest. There are moments, quiet moments, when I swear I can still smell the damp wood, still hear the slow breathing of the forest around it. Back then, though, I didn't listen to that instinct. I didn't care. I was young, restless, burned out by the city and desperate to disappear for a while. A friend of a friend mentioned the place casually like it was nothing special. An old cabin, he said, deep in the woods. No signal, no neighbors, perfect if you want to disconnect. That word, disconnect, hooked itself into my mind. I didn't ask many questions. I didn't ask why it was so isolated or why it was available on such short notice. I told myself it was an opportunity, a chance to reset. I packed a bag, filled my car with gas, and drove until the road narrowed into something barely recognizable as civilization. The trees grew thicker the farther I went. They leaned inward, crowding the road, branches arching overhead like ribs closing around me. Sunlight thinned into pale strands that barely touched the ground. By the time I reached the clearing, the world I knew already felt far away. The cabin stood alone. Old wooden, weathered by time and neglect. Its chimney leaned slightly like a crooked finger pointing at the sky. The porch sagged in the middle, boards bowed from years of weight and rot. Windows stared out at the forest, dark and unwelcoming. And yet something about it felt calm. Inviting even. I told myself that was relief. Inside, the air was heavy with dust and old pine, the smell of something long forgotten. The furniture was basic, table, chairs, a couch that had seen better decades, but everything worked. The place felt lived in, but not recently, like it was waiting. I unpacked slowly, trying to settle my nerves, built a fire in the stone hearth. The flames crackled warmly, pushing back the shadows. Outside, the forest was silent. Too silent. No insects, no distant animal calls, just wind threading through branches, whispering in a language I couldn't quite understand. That first night passed quietly enough. The floorboards creaked under their own weight. The cabin groaned as wood adjusted to cooling air. I told myself that was normal. Old buildings make noise. Old places settle. I fell asleep telling myself everything was fine. The knock woke me. Soft, tentative. 3 slow taps against the front door. I sat up in bed, heart racing. It was late, I knew that without checking the time. The fire had burned low, casting dying embers across the walls. The forest outside was pitch black. No moon, no stars. The knock came again. Tap, tap, tap. Measured. Almost polite. I didn't move at first. My mind scrambled for explanations. A branch in the wind, a raccoon, a deer rubbing against the doorframe, anything but what my instincts screamed. I stood, crept toward the door and listened. Nothing. No breathing, no footsteps. I opened it. The forest stared back at me, rows of trees swaying gently, darkness packed thick between them. No path, no figure, no sound. I laughed under my breath, embarrassed by my fear, and closed the door. Probably an animal, I said out loud. The cabin didn't respond. The next day, unease settled into my bones. I explored the cabin more thoroughly, hoping familiarity would bring comfort. The basement was small and damp, packed with old tools and crates that hadn't been touched in years. The attic was cramped, dusty, and empty, just exposed beams and cobwebs. And yet every corner I stepped into felt wrong. The floorboards didn't align perfectly. Angles felt slightly off. Shadows lingered longer than they should have. When I caught my reflection in the windows, it seemed delayed, like the glass was hesitating before showing me back to myself. I tried to ignore it. Night came faster than I expected, and the knocking returned. Louder, sharper, demanding. I froze in the center of the room, as the sound echoed through the cabin. Then the voice came. Let me in. It wasn't outside. It was inside the walls. Soft, childlike, urgent. It slipped through the cabin like breath through lungs, echoing from the floorboards, from the ceiling, from somewhere impossibly close. I searched every room, every window, every door. Nothing. That night, I slept on the couch in front of the fireplace, my back pressed against stone like it could protect me. The whispers continued. Low, persistent. They didn't threaten. They pleaded. Footsteps came next. Slow, deliberate. Above me, in the attic. I stared at the ceiling as the sound moved, one step then another, circling, pausing, listening. I knew the attic was empty. I had seen it. But something was up there. Watching. Waiting. I didn't sleep that night. Or the next. And then the scratching began. Beneath the floorboards. Behind the walls. A careful, methodical sound, like nails dragging along wood. Not frantic, not random. Intentional. That was when the thought settled fully into my mind. The cabin wasn't abandoned. It was patient. I tried to leave the next morning. Packed my bag with shaking hands, rushed to the door and stepped outside. The forest had changed. The path I had driven in on was gone. Trees stood closer together, trunks thicker, branches twisted and tangled. Shadows slid where no clouds passed overhead. Every direction looked wrong. And then I saw it. A figure among the trees. Pale, emaciated, perfectly still. Its eyes were dark pits. Its mouth curved into something almost like a smile. It didn't move when I moved. It didn't disappear when I blinked. It just watched. And in that moment, the truth settled into me like a weight I would never shake. The cabin didn't want me to leave. It wanted me to stay. Forever. I realized too late that the cabin didn't just want me to stay. It wanted me to disappear. I ran. Not immediately. Fear had pinned me in place for those first few seconds after I saw the figure in the woods. My legs felt hollow, like they might fold beneath me at any moment. The forest seemed to lean inward, trees bending subtly, imperceptibly, as if listening. When I finally moved, it was with pure instinct. I ran toward what I thought was the road. Branches clawed at my clothes, scraping my arms and face. Roots rose where the ground should have been flat, tripping me, slowing me. Every step felt wrong, like the earth itself resisted my weight. No matter how far I went, the cabin never disappeared. Every turn, every desperate change in direction, brought me back to the clearing. The same sagging porch. The same crooked chimney. The same windows, glowing faintly now, warm, inviting, wrong. I stumbled to a stop, chest burning, heart pounding in my ears. The forest closed in behind me. Trees shifted impossibly, trunks sliding closer together like ribs tightening around a lung. The path I had taken dissolved into tangled undergrowth. Shadows moved independently of light, crawling across bark and soil, watching me. And the whispers followed. Not soft anymore. Loud. Demanding. They spoke my name. They repeated my thoughts before I could finish them. They dragged up memories I had buried years ago, failures, regrets, moments I had never forgiven myself for. Stay. You belong here. Forever. I fell to my knees. The air grew thick, pressing against my lungs like water. I tried to scream, but my throat locked, voice trapped inside my chest. My thoughts fractured, splintering into pieces that no longer felt connected. That was when I saw them. Figures emerging from the forest. Dozens at first, then more. Pale, emaciated, twisted. Their limbs bent in ways no human body should bend, joints moving too far too smoothly. Some walked on all fours. Others dragged themselves across the ground, smiling as they moved. Their eyes were dark hollows. Their mouths stretched into expressions that tried and failed to mimic happiness. They circled me slowly, watching, waiting, calling. I staggered backward, panic surging, but the cabin itself shifted. The porch sagged like it was breathing. The walls pulsed faintly, expanding and contracting. Shadows peeled away from the corners and reached for me, stretching across the ground like living things. The door creaked open, slowly, invitingly, and a voice, deep layered, not entirely human, spoke from inside. "Come in." My legs moved before my mind could protest. Inside, the cabin was no longer the same. The fire in the hearth burned high, flames twisting unnaturally, casting shadows that writhed along the walls. The wooden planks groaned beneath my feet, soft in places like flesh beneath skin. Faces pressed outward from the walls. Silent screams frozen in warped expressions. Hands emerged from the floorboards, pale and splintered, grasping at my ankles, my clothes, my skin. Where they touched me, cold spread inward, seeping into my bones. I understood then. Every tenant before me, every traveler, every wanderer who had stepped into this place was still here. Not alive. Not dead. Absorbed. Their consciousness twisted and merged with the structure itself, forming its will, its hunger, its patience. The cabin wasn't haunted. It was fed. The stairs to the attic appeared where there had been nothing before, rising from the floor like a living spine. Each step formed slowly, deliberately, as if the cabin wanted me to see them. I felt the pull. Stronger than fear, stronger than reason. I climbed. My limbs moved against my will, stretching, bending unnaturally as I ascended. Each step felt heavier, like gravity itself increased the higher I went. The whispers grew louder, closer, inside my skull. The attic was empty, and yet it was full. Shapes pressed against the walls from the inside, their outlines barely visible beneath the wood. Pale forms slid along the beams. Shadows moved independently, curling and recoiling like living smoke. Whispers filled every corner, cries behind every panel. And at the center of it all stood a mirror. Old, tall, impossible. It reflected the attic perfectly, and not at all. I stepped closer, and I saw myself. Not as I was, but as I would become. My skin pale and stretched, eyes hollow, limbs bent at impossible angles, faces layered over mine, men, women, children, all screaming silently, laughing, pleading. The cabins will pressed against me. Enter. Become one of us. Feed the next. I tried to resist. My hands shook, my knees buckled. But my body no longer belonged to me. The mirror pulsed. The attic expanded, then collapsed inward. Shadows pressed from every direction. The glass rippled like liquid, pulling at my reflection. And then, I stepped forward. I didn't pass through the mirror. I became it. My body stretched, fractured, absorbed. Bones softened. Flesh dissolved into reflection. My mind shattered into fragments, then reassembled into something vast and hollow. I felt the cabin from the inside. Every wall, every beam, every whisper. I was no longer separate. I could hear footsteps approaching from far away, a car stopping on the road, a door opening, a voice calling out into the forest. Someone new, curious, lonely, exhausted, perfect. I waited. The cabin waits. Patient, eternal, hungry. I am no longer human. I am the whispers in the walls. I am the shadows in the attic. I am the mirror that waits for the next. Forever,